He walked into court not as a defendant, but as a blogger, and he seemed certain the whole world needed to see it. The municipal courtroom smelled faintly of varnish and winter coats. Fluorescents hummed. On the bench, Judge Caprio arranged a neat fan of traffic citations like a teacher sorting quizzes after lunch. Routine case, hazardous driving. Then the doors whispered and a lanky 17-year-old in a hoodie slid through, phone already up, front camera staring back at him as if the lens were counsel. "Okay, guys," he breathed into his mic, glancing at the red light. "Watch how a judge reacts when you know your rights." He didn't whisper quietly enough. Heads turned. A clerk pressed her lips together. The bailiff's palm hovered near his belt, not quite touching anything, just making a point. Caprio looked over the rims of his glasses, the way a lighthouse turns toward fog. "Young man, are you broadcasting this proceeding?" "Yes, Your Honor. Public space, public record. I've seen it on YouTube, totally allowed." Chuckles scattered around the room like coins on tile. "Oh." Caprio's eyebrows rose without moving anything else on his face. "Is YouTube now the law of the United States?" A beat. The kid shifted, the phone unwavering, the comment stream flickering in his pupils. "Well, technically, free speech, right?" "Not exactly." Caprio set his glasses down with physicianly care, as if the frames were instruments that could nick an artery. "And you're about to learn why." Silence lowered itself by degrees. The heating vent clicked. Somewhere in the back, a stroller squeaked, stopped, and the baby decided not to cry. Alex Rain, 17, famous enough to buy sneakers with affiliate links, kept the performance going. The camera lens floated above the defense table. The stabilizer motor whirred a soft electric buzz. He angled his jaw for the good side. Confidence played across his mouth like stage light, a brightness that knew where to fall and how long to hold. Caprio didn't rush. He aligned a pen parallel with the docket, then met the boy's eyes, not the phone's. "You are here on a charge of dangerous operation of a motor vehicle," he said, voice even, Rhode Island granite with a coat of warmth. "We will address the law, and we will do it with respect for everyone present. That includes not turning this room into your studio." A murmur of agreement, a few nods from gray heads in the gallery. People who knew what it meant to be small before an institution and still be heard. Alex's smile thinned but held. He tilted the phone downward, compromising to chest level. The red dot kept glowing. Caprio gestured to the bailiff. "If he lifts it again, you'll kindly hold the device until we're done." No threat, just a rule placed on the table like a placemat. The bailiff nodded once and returned to stillness. "Mr. Rain," the judge continued, "do you understand the charge?" "I mean, yeah, but I didn't hurt anyone." The boy's voice had a shine that sells merch. "We will see." Caprio tapped the folder with one finger. "And we will see without the assistance of your subscribers." The room inhaled together. Cameras, rights, a teenager with an audience. It felt new and not new, the old friction of boundary and bravado dressed in glass and pixels. Even the clock seemed to listen. Alex exhaled through his nose, a quick snare drum sound, and lowered the phone another inch. He mouthed, "Habit, reflex, smash the like," then caught himself. Caprio's mouth almost smiled. "Not yet." He slid the first exhibit from its sleeve and looked back up, steady as a plumb line. The glasses waited by his hand, patient. Somewhere in the gallery, a woman clasped her coat at the throat. The hum sharpened. What exactly had this boy filmed? And why did the judge look so calm? Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you looked at Alex Rain, you'd see a regular American teenager. But if you looked a little longer, you'd see loneliness disguised as followers. He lived with his mother in a small apartment above a laundromat that always smelled faintly of detergent and fatigue. She worked nights at the hospital, her shoes lined by the door like tired sentries. When she left for her shift, Alex's world shrank to the glow of his screen. Online, he wasn't the quiet kid whose father never called. He was Rains, the kid who did real-life challenges for 2 million viewers. The audience filled the silence between refrigerator hums. In court, Judge Caprio's voice was calm but probing. "Tell me, Alex," he said, folding his hands, "why did you run that red light and record it?" Alex straightened, the reflex of someone who'd answered questions on camera before. "It was for content, sir. People like when you take risks. I wasn't doing anything bad." Caprio studied him for a long second. You valued views over safety. Do you understand you could have killed someone? Alex shrugged, a half-smile trying to return. It's just a show. I had it under control. The judge nodded slowly. Let's see this show of yours. The clerk plugged in a flash drive. The screen behind the bench flickered to life. The video opened with bright music, jump cuts, and Alex's voice shouting, "Let's go, guys," as he revved the engine. For the first 30 seconds, it was ridiculous but harmless, teen bravado in motion. Then, at frame 42, a woman stepped off the curb, groceries swinging. Alex's car cut the light, inches from her hip. The woman stumbled backward, the bag burst, oranges rolled. The courtroom gasped. Even the bailiff's face cracked open with disbelief. Alex's jaw tightened. She was fine, he muttered, too quietly. Caprio's voice lowered. You said this was just entertainment. That was someone's life. He leaned forward, elbows on the bench. Do you see her face there, when she realizes she might die? That moment doesn't go viral. It stays in people's nightmares. At the back of the room, a woman sat with her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. Alex's mother. She whispered something no one else could hear. I told him to stop. He said no one would understand. Caprio turned his gaze to her briefly, a silent acknowledgement, then back to the boy. Your mother tried to protect you. You mistook her concern for control. That's what happens when the crowd becomes your compass. The red light from the phone camera still glowed faintly. It was recording again, almost by instinct. Caprio noticed, but didn't stop it. Instead, he spoke as if addressing the invisible millions watching. Fame can build walls thicker than prison bars, he said quietly. And sometimes the hardest sentence is realizing who you were before people started watching. For the first time, Alex didn't know where to look. The confidence leaked from his face, leaving only a 17-year-old who suddenly looked younger than that. The video ended. The screen went black. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy, alive, the kind that makes people breathe differently. Judge Caprio closed the file, his movements deliberate. We'll continue, he said softly. But this time, leave the cameras off. Alex nodded, and for once, didn't argue. When Judge Caprio asked about the money, something in the courtroom shifted. The air itself seemed to tighten, as though the truth had weight. How many views did your video get? He asked. Alex hesitated. Almost 2 million. And how much did you earn from it? The boy exhaled through his nose. Maybe $5,000. Ads, sponsors, you know. Caprio leaned back, fingers steepled. 5,000, he repeated. Interesting. Because that's exactly the amount of the fine for this offense. The room rippled with murmurs, disbelief, judgment, curiosity. A few older spectators exchanged glances, the kind that said this is what the world's come to. The judge looked down at the papers again, then back at the boy. So, you broke the law, filmed yourself doing it, and made a profit. Alex's mouth twitched. It's not like that, sir. People want real stuff. They hate fake influencers. I give them reality. Reality? Caprio's tone barely rose, but the word cut cleanly through the room. You edited it, added music, and turned a traffic violation into a highlight reel. That isn't reality, it's marketing. The boy swallowed, unsure how to answer. The judge gestured toward the officer seated at the side. Officer, please step forward. A stocky man in uniform took the stand. When I pulled him over, the officer began. He had his phone mounted on the dashboard, still rolling. I told him to turn it off, and he said, "Don't worry, officer, it's for content." Laughter broke out, nervous, uneasy. Caprio raised a hand, and silence returned. You told a police officer it was for content. Alex shifted in his seat. Yeah, but I wasn't trying to disrespect him. Caprio's gaze hardened, though his voice remained steady. You weren't trying to disrespect him. You were trying to monetize him. The boy's eyes widened, but the judge didn't stop. You took a civic system, law enforcement, the court, and used it as a stage set. You filmed a public servant doing his job so you could make a spectacle of accountability. He paused, letting the words hang there. That's not rebellion. That's exploitation dressed as entertainment. Alex's fingers fidgeted on the table, tracing invisible patterns. For the first time, his phone was face down, silent. Caprio continued. Do you understand what this means? You turned justice into content. You took something meant to protect lives and turned it into clickbait. You call it courage. I call it confusion. The boy's jaw tightened. Everyone films everything now. That's just how it works. That's the tragedy, Caprio replied softly. We film everything and remember nothing. He took off his glasses, cleaning them with slow precision. The pause stretched until the hum of the ceiling fan became a rhythm. Mr. Rain, he said finally, I don't see a criminal in front of me. I see a generation being taught that attention equals worth. You don't need to be punished. You need to understand what value really means. The courtroom was utterly still. Caprio leaned forward, resting his forearms on the bench. Tell me, if this video had gotten you arrested, would you still have uploaded it? Alex looked up. His answer came quieter than before. Probably, yeah. Why? Because people would watch. Caprio nodded slowly, the kind of nod that carries sorrow more than agreement. That's the most honest thing you've said today. He looked out across the courtroom, at the spectators, parents, workers, retirees, faces lined with years of a world that once moved slower. This boy isn't the problem, he said. He's the symptom. A low murmur again, softer this time, tinged with pity. Then the judge turned back to Alex, his voice clear, deliberate. YouTube can make you famous, but the law will make you responsible. The words landed like a verdict, even though none had been given yet. Alex sat motionless. His mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue that had already folded into threads. The judge closed the file and set his pen down with finality. We'll recess for 10 minutes, he said, rising from the bench. I need a moment, not to think about the law, but about the world we've built for boys like you. As Caprio left, the courtroom didn't exhale. It held its breath, and Alex, for the first time since he'd started filming his life, didn't know if he wanted anyone watching. At some point, even Alex stopped knowing whether he was in court or still inside one of his live streams. The room, the murmurs, the eyes watching. Everything felt like an audience that hadn't yet hit subscribe. Judge Caprio's voice broke through the haze. All phones off. Every single one. Including yours, Mr. Rain. Alex hesitated, thumb hovering above the screen. But, sir, people are waiting for my reaction. This isn't a show, Caprio said evenly. This is court. Alex forced a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. But they'll think I'm hiding something. The judge leaned forward. Your reaction isn't content, son. It's your life. The words landed like a slow echo. And then, from the back of the courtroom, a quiet sob. His mother. Her hand covered her mouth as if she could stop the sound from escaping. Caprio turned gently toward her. Ma'am, would you tell us, how long has this fascination with YouTube been going on? She took a shaky breath. He started after his father left, she said, her voice barely more than a thread. He said he didn't want to be nobody. And you know what, sir, it worked. People noticed him. But I haven't seen my son in years. Only the character he plays. Silence. Pure, absolute. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to dim. Caprio looked at Alex. Did you hear what your mother said? Alex nodded once, his throat tight. Yes, sir. So tell me, Alex, who are you now? Her son, or the character? A pause. His mouth opened, then closed. I don't know. Caprio exhaled softly, as if that was the truest answer he'd heard all morning. Then he motioned to the bailiff. Bring in Officer Daniels. A tall man in uniform entered, hat in hand. His eyes, steady but kind, found Alex immediately. We've met before, he said quietly. Alex frowned, trying to place him. Daniels continued. You had a crash 2 years ago. What road? Same car, same camera. You were laughing when I asked if you were hurt. A ripple passed through the room. Discomfort, disbelief. I thought you were in shock, Daniels said. But then I saw the red light on your phone. You were still recording. Caprio's brow furrowed. He filmed himself after a crash? The officer nodded. And he said, Don't worry, officer. It's all part of the video. No one laughed this time. Even the hum of the ventilation sounded mournful. Caprio turned back to the boy. Do you remember that? Alex swallowed hard. Yeah. You were lucky that night, the judge said quietly. Most people don't get a second chance after that kind of mistake. I know, Alex whispered. No. Caprio corrected, voice deepening. You think you know, but you don't feel it yet. You've forgotten what real pain looks like. Alex's eyes dropped to the table. The phone in front of him reflected his face, half boy, half brand. For the first time, he didn't lift it. Caprio's tone softened. but it carried more weight than any anger could. This isn't about the law anymore. It's about humanity. Somewhere along the way, you replaced empathy with engagement. The boy's shoulders slumped. The persona, the camera-ready grin, the armor of irony, all of it began to crumble. Caprio nodded to the clerk to mark the testimony, then closed the folder with a quiet snap. "We'll proceed," he said, "but not until everyone in this room remembers what we're really dealing with." For a long, suspended moment, no one moved. The courtroom wasn't a set anymore. It was real, painfully real. And Alex Rain, who once lived for views, sat in a silence no camera could capture. When Caprio began counting, each word struck like a gavel, measured, deliberate, carrying both judgment and mercy. He opened a folder thick with papers. "Let's review," he said. "Not just this offense, but your history." The shuffle of documents filled the silence. "You've had 3 prior citations for reckless behavior, 2 warnings for noise violations, and unpaid fines totaling $480. Alex looked down, lips pressed tight. "I didn't think they mattered," he muttered. The judge adjusted his glasses. "Not serious, you mean?" "Yes, sir." Caprio nodded slowly, eyes never leaving him. "And now your not serious choices have added up to a $5,000 problem." He leaned forward, folding his hands. "You earned that exact amount from the video, correct?" Alex hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." "Good," the judge said quietly. "Then here's what I'm going to do. You made $5,000 from breaking the law. I am fining you the same amount. Not because I want your money, but because I want you to pay your conscience." The gallery erupted in murmurs. A man in the back gave a low whistle. Someone whispered, "That's poetic justice." Caprio raised his hand, and the noise stilled. "But that's not all." He paused, studying the boy in front of him. "I believe you have something the law alone can't teach. Reach. An audience. And if you're going to have influence, you're going to use it for something other than adrenaline and algorithms." Alex blinked. "What do you mean?" "I'll give you 2 weeks, Caprio said. 2 weeks to create a new video. Not about defiance, not about how to bend the rules, but about learning responsibility. Show people what it means to make things right. If you do that, I'll cut your fine in half. But if you turn it into another performance," he tapped the folder once, "I'll double it." The room went dead silent. The deal hung there, daring him. Alex sat back, processing. "And if I make a real video, an honest one, you'll really reduce the fine?" Caprio's eyes softened. "I'll do more than that. I'll watch it." The audience broke into applause before the bailiff could even hush them. It wasn't the kind of cheer that follows a punchline. It was relief, as if someone had finally said the thing everyone had been hoping for. Caprio let the noise fade, then spoke again, voice low and sure. "You think justice is a wall meant to stop you. But sometimes, it's a mirror meant to show you who you are." Alex stared at the judge, unsure if he was being punished or invited into something larger. His hands trembled slightly, half fear, half possibility. Caprio gathered his papers, slid them neatly into a folder, and stood. "You decide now," he said, "whether you want to be an example or a warning." The gavel didn't strike. It didn't need to. The silence that followed did the work for him. Alex looked toward his mother. Her eyes were red, but for the first time, they held something new. Hope, fragile and glowing. As the courtroom emptied, Alex remained seated, the echo of the judge's words looping in his mind. The challenge wasn't just about a video. It was about whether he could create something real without hiding behind a lens. For the first time, he wasn't thinking about views or sponsorships. He was thinking about what it would mean if, for once, someone watched him and saw a person instead of a persona. 2 weeks later, the courtroom was full again. Reporters lined the walls, phones hidden this time, by order of the judge. Nobody knew what Alex Rain would say. The last time he'd stood here, he was half performer, half defendant. Today he walked in quietly, no hoodie, no camera, just a folded flash drive in his palm. Judge Caprio regarded him with a measured calm. "Well, Mr. Rain," he said, "are you ready to show us your new work?" "Yes, sir," Alex replied, his voice steady but low. The clerk inserted the drive. The screen blinked to life. No music, no flashy cuts. The first frame was the courtroom itself. The same bench, the same judge, the same silence that had once humiliated him. His voice narrated over it. "This is where I learned that a camera can't save you from the truth. Then came his mother, sitting at their kitchen table, her hands clasped around a mug. She said softly, "I just want him to be happy, not famous." Her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. The next shot faded to daylight. Alex stood outside a small elementary school. "They asked me to help with a project," his narration continued. "So I taught them what I never learned soon enough, how to stop when the light is red." The video showed him kneeling beside a group of kids, helping them record a simple safety PSA. No jokes, no irony, just sincerity. One little girl turned to the camera and said, "We stop because we care." By the time the video ended, the courtroom was completely still. Not a cough, not a shuffle. The boy who once filled silence with noise had somehow learned how to use quiet as a message. Caprio's eyes were softer now. "You didn't just make a video," he said after a long pause. "You made a choice." Alex nodded, his voice barely a whisper. "I realized YouTube wasn't the problem. I thought attention was love. But it isn't. It's just noise. I wanted to be seen. I didn't know I already was." For the first time, Caprio smiled. Not the polite smile of a judge, but the quiet relief of a teacher seeing a lesson take root. "The law isn't punishment," he said. "It's a mirror. And today, I think you finally recognized the reflection." He reached for his pen and wrote something on the docket. "Your fine is reduced to $500, he said. "The rest will be donated to that school. Consider it an investment in what you've begun." A murmur of approval spread through the room, gentle applause, restrained by respect. Alex turned to his mother. She was crying openly now, but her smile was steady. He didn't reach for his phone to capture it. He just looked, memorizing it the way real moments should be kept, without playback. When the hearing adjourned, he stepped outside into the November light. Reporters waited, cameras poised, but this time he raised a hand and shook his head. No interviews, no statements. He just walked down the courthouse steps, his breath visible in the cold. For the first time in years, he wasn't performing. No lens followed him. But somewhere, someone was still watching, because real life has its own audience, and it doesn't need a screen. And as Alex Rain disappeared into the crowd, the boy who once lived through pixels finally began to live in the world itself.